Now, despite how I may talk about them, our nomads do not exist in a vacuum. The world around them is filled with people. Granted, not that many people, but enough that they are all able to communicate and interact with one another on a semi-regular basis. Each clan of nomads are very similar to one another, due to living relatively in the same area, but they are still all different. Their cults, gods, lifestyles, and stories are all slightly different variations of one another, but they still follow largely the same hunter and wild gods, with a lot of skull and animal cults interspersed throughout the land. After all, it's really hard to get one single religion going when isolation and insulation is such a big part of the lifestyle of our nomads. But the most important thing other clans bring with them is language and trade. Trade allows for a sharing of wealth and inter-clan communication, and language allows everyone to communicate without too much trouble, as well as warning and guiding one another through written symbols, helping each other as fellows in a hostile and not fully understood world. Fire is cool, but how humans utilize fire is even cooler. Humans have been able to control fire since roughly 1.7 to 2 million years ago, and by the time our story starts, humans are able to create fire with flint, maintain campfires and hearths, and use charcoal and embers to harden wood and stone to improve the quality of their tools. Now, moving slightly away from real timelines, our fictional nomads use wooden torches made of grass, sticks, resin, and bark, and candles consisting of shallow bowls of bone or stone that hold bone marrow and tallow that use twigs as wicks. Our nomads also use little ember bundles, a small animal skin wrapped around sticks, moss, leaves, bark, and twigs with a live ember at its center, allowing them to carry live embers around for easier and faster lighting. And of course, the classic flint and steel combo. To our nomads, fire is a terrifying, destructive force, but it's also a weapon with many, many uses. Birch trees, you may not know it, but we humans have been crafting with this stuff for way longer than you might think. Since as far back as maybe 200,000 years ago, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens have been able to use birch bark as a fibrous material to make clothing, string, bags, baskets, and even maybe probably not shoes. But before all that, we used birch bark to make birch pitch. Easily made by simply burning dry and green birch bark, this pitch was the first known adhesive, used first as a backing on small stone tools, like a rubber handle almost. Birch tar is sticky, water-resistant, and contains disinfectant properties. So while real-world evidence doesn't corroborate such uses, it's really fun for a writer such as myself to imagine all of the uses something like that could have for our nomads. Hey, did you know there are multiple types of nomads? 3 if you want to get specific. The nomads I've been covering through the series are known as hunter-gatherer nomads, wherein they live through foraging and hunting, with their nomadic nature developing as they follow prey migrations and resources into new territories as seasons change. And this is what you'd call the default settings of human existence. And today, there still exist small modern hunter-gatherer communities, such as the Kalahari Khoisan people. But after the agricultural revolution, a new type of nomad arose, the pastoral nomad. Pastoral nomads raise herds of animals and move to different grazing territories, usually within the same biome. Again, modern pastoral nomads still exist, such as some traditional Mongolian communities. And the last type of nomad are the way more modern peripatetic nomad. These nomads belong to an organization or company and move with that organization, like circuses. Ah yes, the 3 eras of human history: hunting, pastoral, and capitalism. Fun fact, star charts are hard to draw. Also, I knew nothing about this entire subject before I started working on this video, so that's been fun. But what I've learned is that stars are pretty simple once you figure them out. Although they are different depending on what hemisphere and part of that hemisphere you're on, stars work on 2 cycles, rotating fully once a day and again much slower over the course of a year. This is how our nomads are able to navigate, find the 4 cardinal directions, and tell time, determining when and where they should travel, and that's pretty important. This form of constellation navigating also comes with a lot of cultural and religious significance, a way to explain what the stars are and stories that identify each constellation in turn. But I'll talk about that in another video. So, although our nomads are, well, nomadic, they follow patterns throughout the year to ensure their best chances of survival, and these primarily are the movements north and south with the summer and winter months. In the spring, our nomads move from their shelters in the mountainous mixed forests north into the Mammoth Plains. These plains make for excellent hunting grounds for megafauna and other wildlife. Then, as soon as the weather turns and autumn arrives, they move back south to the forests. From there, they can spend the autumn preparing for winter, setting up a long-term shelter and foraging for easily preserved foods. Then after the long winters, they are able to live off the land as they make their way back to the hunting grounds. So I talked about the stars a few weeks ago, but another interesting celestial body in the sky is the moon. Alongside the stars, the moon is the easiest way to tell time and navigate. It's a pity it works on a different cycle than the stars, but anyways. And it is through the cycling from new moon to full moon that our humans can better count the individual days. But they don't know why the moon cycles like this, and that's where things can get interesting. The nights with new moons must be dark and objectively terrifying. The biggest light in the night sky is gone, and while it always comes back, who knows how or why? The moon's cycle of death and rebirth poses fascinating ideas for the development of a culture. Let's talk religious rituals. They're universal within every culture and religion that has ever existed. They're ways for people to consult with fate and feel in control of things that are otherwise out of their hands. They can help communities grow closer, justify sins, judge, condemn. In real life, there seems to be a bit of overlap between different rituals in different cultures. For example, rain dances were independently developed by the Cherokee, the San, and Aboriginal people in 3 completely separate parts of the world. Hunting preparation rituals were also rather universal, as well as celebrations after a successful hunt. A lot of emphasis seems to be placed on parts of life that dealt with music, family or community, and hunting. Hey, if you've seen my burial short, I mentioned that when our nomads die, they rise to the stars alongside the Hunter constellation. The Hunter constellation points north and is the primary navigation tool used by our nomads. But when our nomads die, it is believed that their souls, per se, become one of the stars in the sky. But those who live great lives become parts of the sky's constellations. Heroes, warriors, and great historical clans and families are preserved, per se, in cultural memory through legends and stories. Terrifying hunts or quarries such as cave lions, mammoths, or bears also form some of the constellations. Hey, let's talk about the wild god again, specifically the wild god's origin. I was originally inspired by the idea of skull cults that were recorded in early Neanderthal and human Neolithic communities, but the wild god is old, really old. Older than the hunter god. The original skulls used for worship are from a prehistoric wildcat inspired by the Dinophilus. That is long extinct by the time the story is set in. The wild god is so ancient that they've drifted from their original characterization. In fact, you could say the new and old wild gods are 2 completely different entities now.